Yeah, I was called a deadbeat today.
Wow.
Because I know it's crazy, and I don't even got no
You
kids,
ain't take
but
care of your responsibility.
yeah, I didn't take care of my responsibilities, and one of my kids, he's been calling me dad since he has his dad in his life, and I think I've talked about this on the show, but if not, he has his dad in his life, and I have a really good relationship with his dad, so and that's neither here nor there. But he's always called me dad in so many different ways. He's tried to give me kisses. Like it's crazy out here, right? Because I take care of my kids, and he called me a deadbeat because he texted me and I didn't text him back all week. Now, mind
Dev the
you, he's
deadbeat.
for all the liberated souls and the ones in the back. Welcome to the Liberated. Whoa, Off The Syllabus, the Liberated Dreams podcast. I'm Dev.
Hey y'all, I'm Kam.
And class is in session. Oh yeah, that was smooth. This is lesson 1. I think we're calling it Literacy is Liberation, right? Is that what you that what you put on the lesson plan?
Correct.
Literacy is liberation. Yeah, we got a dope conversation for everyone today, for the community, for the class today, in hopes that you will take the knowledge that we kind of engage in today and apply it in some way, shape, or form, whether it's in your classroom, whether it's with your youth, or at home with your kids. Or if you don't have kids, because everybody don't have kids, so I guess we acknowledge, the aunties and the uncles and the cousins that just want to be aunties, uncles, and cousins, and not mothers and fathers. So all the guardians and caregivers, this is for you. Yeah. So literacy is liberation. That is the focal point of today's lesson, and it isn't just about reading. It isn't just about writing. It isn't really about any one thing. I think literacy is, from the research that I've done and the reading that we've done, I think literacy is encompassing of everything that is life on so many different levels, because there's no way to get away from any form or aspect of literacy. So I think the goal today is to connect literacy to agency, and really expand how language gives young people the power to name their world and reimagine it. And for every young person turns into an adult. So I would say that reigns true for the adults that are currently navigating this world that we call Earth. What you think, Kam?
I think you put that very eloquently, and I share the same sentiments as you, of looking forward to this conversation, of us being able to share some of our experiences in the youth development field as it relates to literacy. But I'm even more so excited to see the feedback that we get from our audience, because I would love to hear additional ideas on how we can continue to expand educating our youth from both a traditional and a non-traditional sense. We're a village, and we all have different angles and niches that we can approach when it comes to just trying to empower this population and give them the accurate tools that it takes for them to be able to transition into adulthood and lead us into the future. So I think today is going to be a really dope convo, and I'm looking forward to it for sure.
And you said tools, accurate tools, and I got a gem to drop today as it pertains to a tool, and that is this book by Gholdy Muhammad. That might be your cousin for real.
Low key, high key.
Gholdy Muhammad. And it's called Cultivating Genius. It is an equity framework for culturally and historically responsive literacy. So it is a literacy framework that is based in history, equity, and history, equity, and culture. It is forwarded by Bonita L. Love, who is also a PhD professor. I don't remember what institution she teaches at. I think it's somewhere. I think she lives in Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken. And fun fact is, Bonita Love is from Rochester, New York.
The
That's my
irony.
town.
The
My town.
irony.
And I got her book over there in my bookshelf. But that's a different book for a different day. It's still baked in the same thing, but I always think that it's super cool to learn or be a life learner and engage with academics from your hometown. So like, because they tend to tell, the cool thing about Bonita's book is she told stories and used names that were um, near and dear to my heart because I'm from the town. So I'm like, oh yeah, I know exactly where she's talking about. So it gave me a different sense of connection to the book and that process of engaging with that content, which is funny. A part of one of the articles that we'll talk about a little later around literacy and reimagining literacy today and all of that stuff. But yeah, that's my gem drop, is Cultivating Genius, an equity framework for culturally and historically responsive literacy, forwarded by Bonita Love, written by Gholdy Muhammad, which is Cam's cousin. 3
Hey,
times removed.
Gholdy. Hey, cuz.
So, Cam, what we got? What's our first topic today? How are we starting off this lesson?
Well, I thought that it would be fitting for us to take a little trip down um, memory lane, or just look at the historical context of how literacy not only relates to the work that we do, but specifically when it comes to the Black community, because obviously that's the lens and the perspective that we lead from. That's a huge part of our identities. And so naturally, just from me being in this field and supporting young folks and staff teams, I didn't notice early on that it was as important to focus on literacy, because initially my introduction into youth development work, I'm thinking that it's the fluffy things, right? So it's the playing games with kids or doing arts and crafts and things of that nature. But as I started to cultivate more programming for young people that would allow them to just learn more about the communities that they lived in and how they can get involved, I'm like, okay, wait a minute, there's some gaps here that I'm noticing when it comes to their educational experience. And so not only was I trying to understand like why they existed in the present, but I'm like, where did this come from? Like, obviously this is a reflection of the education system. And so before I can learn how to dismantle it or change it, I need to know how it was formed. And so the articles that we have that are listed to reference for our audience are from the Library of Congress and history.com. And so, as a lot of our listeners may know or may not know, when it comes to literacy in the Black community, it was something that we had to do in secret, right? Like, it was not it wasn't encouraged, because at the time the laws like literally like told us that like you're not supposed to be able to read and write, and if you try to, like literally, like you could lose your life, like you're gonna be punished, it's gonna be a consequence. And so the article from history.com I found very intriguing, because this was, while I think it's common knowledge to know that enslaved Africans at the time of slavery were not very educated, I never really knew the stats. And so the article on history.com mentioned that only 10% of the enslaved people in the antebellum South were literate, which is like very heartbreaking to see, because that basically means that like they not only couldn't just do your basic reading and writing, but like they just couldn't even really understand probably just the things that were going on in the world behind them. And so with that, there was also more examples that were given in the Library of Congress article, where the story was told or the reference was made of Susie King Taylor, which I had never heard of before. Have you ever heard of Susie King Taylor?
Nah, I never heard of her.
Yeah,
not before reading the article.
Yeah, so basically, like she was the first Black Civil War nurse. And she also was the first Black woman to publish a Civil War memoir, which is huge because obviously back then, if you're not supposed to be reading and writing, you definitely not supposed to be like telling the world that you know how to do these things, let alone be publishing, like putting this in like historical documents. But thank goodness though that she was able to do that. So then that way we're able to reference like some of the things that she had to overcome or just what her experience was. And so another thing that I learned just through the Library of Congress article that shares about her story is she talks about how she was able to learn through underground schools. So oftentimes we hear about Underground Railroad, and so a lot of us have common knowledge of knowing that this is how slaves basically escaped slavery and were able to eventually find their freedom. But like the underground schools also was referenced in this article as just being not only like a space where the slaves at the time would prioritize teaching each other and learning and putting their literacy like on their list of priorities, but also it just showed the unique ways that they will have to still protect themselves. Like I think it referenced that she went to a hidden school that was in Georgia, and she couldn't just walk out with the books out in plain sight, right? So she would have to wrap them in paper so that way it was hidden from the slave owners and the police, so she wouldn't get caught and get persecuted for that. So I just think it's important to be aware of different instances like this, because as we're trying to teach young people in the present day why they need to prioritize their literacy, and why it's important to just know how to why it's important just to know, like, just to read and write. Like, literally our ancestors, like, crawled so we can walk. Like, these are the experiences that they had to go through to make sure that they were able to, like, just get the basic human rights that they were, like, rightfully, like, entitled to. There's another stat I'm trying to look here in my notes that I thought was pretty impactful too. It talks about after the Civil War, that's obviously when more schools specifically for Black students emerged, and that birthed what we know today to be our HBCUs, the historical Black colleges and universities. But it also led to an increase, obviously, since the schools existed, of literacy rates in Black Americans. So from 1870, the literacy was around 20%. And then by 1910, it increased to 70%, which is a huge jump. And it's important to be able to hone in on the increase in that stat, because it just shows that despite those barriers, that these people were still determined to still make sure that they educated themselves. And so I just think that if we reference these type of examples more in the present day, it could help our youth with learning, like, hey, like if my ancestors had to go through all of this, had to risk their lives and had to go to underground schools and had to, go through had to experience Jim Crow laws and all these other like negative things, and they still were able to come out on top and still live successful lives, then I owe it to them and myself to make sure that now that I have things that are more accessible, to make sure that I'm empowering myself and I'm knowing like how I can make sure that I'm prioritize my education. And I don't mean education as like you have to go to college, because that may not be for everybody. That's totally fine. But that doesn't mean that you can't still be aware of what's going on around you. Like that's what I more so mean when I talk about like education. I think it can be so much more broader than just the things that you typically learn in a classroom. And obviously we are living proof of that, because the work that we do is beyond the classroom, it's beyond the syllabus. So yeah.
I love how you just tied that, like just brought
you see
that
what I
full
did there?
circle.
You see?
Beyond the syllabus, off the
I
syllabus.
do what I can.
I love that. And one, I would like to acknowledge to the class that although I appreciate slave stories and teachings and things of that nature, one of the things that I'm hypercritical about is how much we depend on that time period to teach us how to push forward in this current time period. And I think that there's really good fundamental teachings that come out of that period of slavery, or long period of slavery, 400 years, and counting. Centuries of slavery, right? But I think that we should focus less on the act of slavery and more on the skills that came out of the resilience,
for sure,
in response to slavery, right? So we have a product of skills that spawned from all of those Jim Crow laws, black laws, slave laws, literacy laws, all of the things that come out of that time period. I wanted to preface that. And I think one of the things out of the what's her name? I want to make sure I get her name right. Susie King Taylor. One of the things that I recognize out of the Susie King Taylor story, and just a little excerpt from the 114-page memoir where her excerpt was like 2 pages long, I think they said, was her willingness and her desire to want to be educated, and how her, along with all of the other kids, had a process to which they, one, protected each other, but two, understood the risks that they were taking when they walked to their teacher's house. And then they had to strategically, talk about strategic literacy, they had to strategically go into the house one by one, so that the whites, the neighbors, didn't know what was going on, because they thought that they were just going there to learn some trades or whatever, I think is what the memoir said, or the excerpt said. But there was like this sense of, as a youth, I'm not doing this because I'm being told to do this and I'm complaining the whole way. It's like, nah, this is what we do in order to get ahead, so we don't become, our grandparents, or our parents, however you want to say it. So I think as we are engaging with this idea of literacy being liberation, which I have an excerpt to read out of Dr. Muhammad's book. Is it Dr.? Yep, Dr. Muhammad's book. It's super interesting that you connected literacy to liberation without necessarily reading this book, and how Dr. Muhammad, I told you that's your third cousin. That's your cousin 3 times removed.
We all have 6 degrees of separation as far as I'm concerned. So whole time we probably really do have a common denominator, but I'm gonna let you proceed.
Yeah. I'm trying to tell you. Listen, if you meet Cuzzo, just let her know, I'm family too.
You put me on. So, yeah.
But there is a need of a presence of parents and adults in our youth's life that pass the mantle of literacy, and wanting to be literate. Not saying that our people are illiterate, although in terms of testing, tests show that a majority of us are illiterate, right? I think the majority of this country is illiterate. The vast majority of this country is illiterate, and we see that in so many different, we see that show up in so many different ways. However, our connectedness to literacy, literary institutions, and the longing to be literate has centuries of historic relevance to how we got to where we are today. And I don't want, as we're having this conversation, I don't want people in class to think that we only educate our kids, because our kids are as educated as they see us educated. My mom has 2 master's degrees.
Okay, Mom.
You know what I'm saying? So like,
She a doctor too, low key.
There's a thing
That's
at this
giving
point.
doctor vibes. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I grew up seeing school happening, right? And we were just having a conversation the other day where she was saying that, we didn't, when she was in her bachelor's program, we didn't know because she made sure that we was good. She made sure that we were good before she went on that journey. But when she was in her master's program, she made sure that she was able to do the master's situation. She complained about getting a 92. Like, it's a 92. I should have got a 100.
Okay. Come on with the high bar of expectations. I'm not mad at it.
We felt it because she was like, oh, I got a 92.
No.
Like, you got a 92, though. You got a 92. There is not a lot of numbers till you get to 100. That is a really good thing.
She knew she could do better. That's all.
Right. But you see that, and it translates in different ways to the kids, which is I was one of the kids, right? But I want to read this excerpt from Cultivating Genius because I think it is one very specific to. Very intentional to the conversation that we're having today, but then two, I think it lays the foundation to how robust literacy is to the Black experience, to the Black people living in America, to Black history in this country. So defining literacy. Within literacy societies, to be educated was to be literate. Literacy among Black people was not just tied to skills and proficiencies, which is a common notion for literacy today, but it was also defined as liberation and power. In this way, literacy was connected to acts of self-empowerment, self-determination, and self-liberation. It is important to note that these were the ambitions they cultivated for themselves rather than thinking that others would give them power or determine their life outcomes. Kam, give me what you thinking about that? Because it's a lot. As you can see, if you're I
can't quite read that, but I can see the highlighted.
It's highlighted though.
I can see that. Yeah. Yes.
That's why I know where I'm going in the book, because you highlight and you annotate, and I got the little, for those that's watching, I got the what's these called, Kam?
The
sticky notes,
tabs, the page tabs,
sticky notes. So I know exactly where I'm going when I'm trying to make a point. Right. What you feel about that? How do you feel about that definition of literacy?
I mean, I think it's so beautifully said, because it's so much more than just the surface level definition of what you think of when it comes to like learning. It goes beyond, just the educational piece. And I think a wonderful, what came to my mind thinking of all the additional things of self-determination and like the self-worth that these individuals were getting while going through this process, I thought of the resistance that it encouraged as well. So like just going through the act of like prioritizing your education and doing it by any means necessary goes to show that like that's how like vital it was like at that time. But even like now, the circumstances may be different. It may not be as bad, but it is challenging in a different way. But I think that they made me also think of the resistance that came along with what they were participating in by prioritizing their literacy and ultimately fighting for their freedom, aka liberation.
Yeah, and I think, my favorite line from that is not even because I read this a couple years back, so I was a different dev when I was reading this and highlighting and stuff. But my favorite line is not even what I highlighted, even though that is how it's defined. My favorite line was when she started to say that it's important to note that the ambitions they cultivated them for themselves rather than waiting for somebody to cultivate them for themselves or for them. Which then that kind of feeds back into the self-empowerment, self-determination, and self-liberation. and really taking what's in between the two covers of the book and really identifying how does this inform how I move forward in life.
Mhm.
And even when we're talking about kids, because this book is talking about a framework of literacy for youth. One of the things that I've highlighted and I've always seen to be true was you have to see the brilliance in the kids before they see it in themselves. And you have to
Yeah.
continue to punch, not punch physically people, but you have to continually punch that narrative until they understand that they are worthy of being smart. They are worthy of being cared for. They are worthy of everything that goes into literacy, because literacy is not just literacy of in English. You have math literacy. You have emotional literacy. You have mental literacy, right? Which then goes into the idea of agency, right?
Yeah. Emotional intelligence is another form of literacy
emotional
too.
intelligence, right? So like you have to be literate in so many different facets of life to where that affects how you make decisions. I was called a deadbeat today because I was called a deadbeat today.
Wow.
Because I know it's crazy, and I don't even got no kids.
You ain't take care of your responsibility.
Yeah, I didn't take care of my responsibilities, and one of my kids, he's been calling me dad since he has his dad in his life, and I think I've talked about this on the show, but if not, he has his dad in his life, and I have a really good relationship with his dad, so and that's neither here nor there. But he's always called me dad in so many different ways. He's tried to give me kisses. Like it's crazy out here, right? Because I take care of my kids, and he called me a deadbeat because he texted me and I didn't text him back all week. Now, mind you,
the deadbeat.
Yeah. But I told him just because. All right.
Now, I hear.
Don't judge me.
I
Don't
sense
judge
what
me.
had happened was story that's about to happen.
But what had happened was
excuses.
You know,
excuses. I don't even want to hear it. I'm on his side and I ain't even heard it yet. Go ahead, tell your excuse. Go ahead.
It's not an excuse. It's just you know where I work. You know where I work. You know where I work.
I'm on his side because if I'm not mistaken, the last text I sent you yesterday didn't get answered neither. So yep, I'm with him on that. Dev the deadbeat. Yep. I'm gonna change your name to that on my phone.
See, listen here. All right. The point that I'm trying to make is if I didn't pour as much into him as I did, him and his other siblings too, but him in particular, he wouldn't feel comfortable enough to call me a deadbeat because he knows how I show up. You see how I did that? You see how I did that?
How you tried to flip the script?
No, ain't no flipping the script. He knows the standard. He knows where the bar is, and he wants to keep me at that standard, at that bar. Because last week he told me that, you know, he has the ability to graduate in January of this year, a year early. A year early. And he was like, I bet you never expected me to say that, of all people, because he used to get all Fs. So I used to be on him like white on rice.
We know the program is strict. We know.
Like black don't crack. You know what I'm saying? And nah, we don't do that here. Like I need you to understand, we don't do that here. You have the ability. Yeah, I hear how your teachers talk to you. That's cool. That's dandy. But we don't do that here. Your teachers don't control your grades. You control them. So you might feel a certain way in how they say it, but the reality is you chose to yell at that teacher that got you suspended. So guess who's not in class? If you're not in class, guess who don't get the content? You don't get the content. Guess who don't pass the test? And what do you have to do in order to graduate high school? Pass test. You have to be competent, right? So taking him down that journey, you know, he's earned the right to call me a deadbeat.
But good for him, though. Right? Good for him, though, for changing the narrative and applying himself and doing a 180, because what better way to disrupt the system than to show that I'm so much more than a statistic, and I'm going to prove y'all wrong. So shout out to that young man.
And that's something he did ask to be on a podcast. I don't know if he asked to be on this podcast or
I would love to meet him. But the other one. That one ain't popping like this one, but
This one not even out yet at the time of this recording.
But it
it's
will
gonna be
be.
popping though.
But it will
And it's
be.
gonna be popping.
Period.
But yeah, no. So, and part of all that is like you have to see in your youth and your kids, you have to see where you want them to go, not where you want them to go. You have to see you in them, the younger
absolutely.
you. One of my favorite questions that I ask youth workers now is, what did you need when you were a teenager? And be a version of that. But then ask your kids, what do they need now? And merge the two together. Now, everything is not going to be perfect, but you also got to stay 10 toes and you got to be annoying. I am the most annoying youth practitioner there can be.
All my kids, they always talk about how Ms.Kam do the most, and I'm like, and do
the most. I got to.
Somebody
I got
has
day.
to. I'm doing the most because y'all doing the least.
You know how it's funny how all this ties back to literacy, but you know how they say like, I don't got all day? Well, I work with youth. I'm an educator. I don't get off until 6. I got all day. So do you want me to really be annoying for the rest of the program? No? All right, then I need y'all to get right. Or I'm gonna be annoying. It got to the point for me, right, and my kids, where they would correct each other because they didn't want to hear my mouth. Right? And part of that is because I'm also annoying. And I'm gonna be extra when it's time to be extra because y'all, now I gotta spend time doing stuff that y'all and telling y'all things that y'all already know. I'm holding you to a standard. I need y'all to hold each other to a standard. Now, it's not perfect all the time, but when you instill that into your kids, what tends to happen is they start to instill it into each other, and now you build an ecosystem to which you never have to correct it unless it's something really drastic. And I think that's where the power lies, and that's where that liberation. So what I just did was tell a story about building literacy in kids without ever picking up a book, right? Because literacy, by definition, by Dr. Muhammad, is about self-empowerment, self-determination, self-liberation. So how do you cultivate spaces or societies that are able to self-govern themselves, itself, and then the people within it govern each other to a common goal? And the common goal, right, in terms of your youth programs, might be just getting to the end of the day without hearing Dev's mouth. And if the youth decide that they want to make sure that that is their common goal, they're going to govern each other before Dev has to step in and govern. You know what I'm saying? So like part of what I love about this definition is it stays broad because it's talking about skill building. And it's talking about how do I apply them skills to myself in order to be a better version than I was when I woke up. Woke up. That's crazy. When I woke up this morning. Ebonics
101.
101.
I love how you broke that down. And as you were mentioning that made me naturally think about like what are some of the ways that I've attempted to have the same type of results, just teaching the youth that I've served in a unique way, or just helping them with giving them tools so they can learn how to further educate themselves beyond the information that I give them. And what came to mind for me was advocacy program that I was spearheading in my previous role. And so the goal was to teach the teens about how the government works on a state level. That was like the actual curriculum that our organization had created that we had to utilize for the delegation. However, I went a step further and also incorporated in lessons about local government, because my goal was to teach them how on local and state, those are the levels where you have more influence, but especially local, because those elected officials are more accessible and they're just in your community. You 9 times out of 10 go to church with them. They're your cousins, this, that, and the third. So anyway, one night when we were having one of our delegation meetings, it just so happened it was election day, or election night, should I say, for this past national election that just went down. So I'm coming in after a long day of work and taking a step away from work to go vote. And so I come into our meeting and I had my I voted sticker on, which I had forgotten about. So instantly, my teens are clocking, like, oh, Ms.Kam, like, okay, like, you voted today, like, who you vote for? And I'm like, excuse me, that's my business. Like, you can't be asking folks about, like what their political affiliation is. Some folks may feel comfortable talking about that, but you got to be able to read the room. Like, you can't just jump right into somebody's business. I'm not going to tell y'all that. I said, but just know that I voted. And so hopefully when you all get to voting age, like, you'll do the same. And so then from there, I flipped the script and I said, I'm curious to switch it on y'all. Who, if y'all were able to vote, if you were legal age, who would you have voted for in the presidential election? Would you have been Team Harris or Team Trump? So from there, then I made it an interactive thing. I'm like, okay, go on this side of the room if you're Team Trump. Go to this side of the room if you Team Harris, or go in the corner if you like Team Nobody, if you indifferent, you neutral, whatever. So it was pretty split. They either went with Harris or Trump, the main contenders. And I was very surprised to see how split the room was. And so from there, I'm like, okay, so state your reasons why. Like, what do you like about their platforms and why would they earn your vote? And from there, I had some young men on the Trump side that were like, yeah, we don't need no female president because females are emotional, and we gonna be in a third world war. If we have a woman president, yada yada yada, blah blah blah. So inside, I'm cringing, right? I'm like, ooh, like they tried it, but it's not my job to tell them what to think or how to think. Is to, first of all, to get them thinking, and then from there, try to point them in the right direction so they can become more well informed if their information is wrong. So I just want to make sure they're comfortable with just holding space with speaking their truth. So they saying stuff that is loud and wrong in my book, but I'm like, whatever, I'm gonna let y'all think y'all cooking. I'm gonna let y'all do y'all thing, and I'm gonna come in and course correct. So then on the other side for Trump, there were some young women that stated their reasons why they would want to support him, blah, 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 blah. So then from there, I'm like, okay, so where y'all getting this information from? Like, how do y'all know that this is their platforms? Like, how do you know this to be true? And literally, like, the entire group, and this is like a group of like almost 20 teens. They're like, oh, I seen this on TikTok. Oh, I saw on Instagram. Like, basically everybody was relying on social media and sound bites to get their information. And a lot of them also like referred to think pieces by just other influencers who weren't even in the political arena, whatever the case may be, that were giving their opinions. So not to say that these folks can't still provide some beneficial information, but a lot of it was just based off of opinion. So from that experience, that allowed me to have a bigger conversation with these teens about how they can go a step further with making sure that the sources that they're referencing are credible, and that the reasons that they are making these decisions, that it's just based off fact more than just opinion. I'm like, the biggest thing you want to do when you're going out here in the world and you speaking on any topic, it don't even matter, not even the elections, is make sure that you've done your homework and that you've researched it for yourself, that you know it to be true. You don't just take it and run with it because you heard Kai Cenat said it, or you heard Ms.Kam or whoever. Like, make sure that you are fact checking, because people can be wrong, and just make sure that, again, like, you're doing your research before you vote or you make like other bigger decisions. So that was like my literacy moment where I was able to teach them beyond just, just that moment, but also just use like mediums like digital storytelling to where I didn't condemn them. Like, it's not bad to lean into that, but just make sure that, again, you're checking your sources that you're referencing, because as we know, people spin their own narratives.
That's a fact. And that's a dope program or conversation to have. I'm always one to have those like very real conversations that's relevant to real time, which we'll get into that a little bit later on in the show. But like, that is, I think, the foundation of what literary societies or institutions were back in the 60s. Like this, Dr. Muhammad's book is kind of placed in that 60s, 50s, 60s time period. You know, the kind of
Civil
rise.
rights.
Yeah, the rise of civil rights and the Martin Luther Kings and the Malcolm X and Black Panthers, and those are all literary societies, right? That use literacy as a tool of revolution, right? Liberation in so many different ways. And I don't think that we have that now. We don't have spaces where we can go and be in community together and be rigorous with each other together, and then leave and go home and we good. We still going to get a burger, or I don't know what they did back in the day, but when
they
we
went
gonna
to
go and get
the juke joints. Where was that?
Yeah, they're gonna go to I don't even know if it's a juke joint, because we talking about the 60s.
Yeah, they used to have the milkshakes with. They used to have the milkshakes with the where you like play the music. What is those things called with the records? I can't think of it. I could see it in my mind, but
yeah, I can see it too. But wherever they will still go there and dance and do all they with the all that stuff, right? So yeah, we don't have that. And I think that's one of those, again, strategically thinking about literacy and the different facets of literacy and how that turns into agency at some point in life. We have to continue to cultivate spaces that build on what literacy is and how literacy is defined in the minds of not only the adults, but the youth that's taking up space together. And I think, again, that definition that I read from out of the book is a really good definition of what literacy is and what it has always been as it pertains to Black people living in this country, the United States of America. So yeah, that's dope. So it's recess time, and y'all know during recess we kind of go off even more off the syllabus, if you will, to talk about something that is relevant-esque to the conversation, but also something that gives you all a break, a bathroom break, a mental break, so you're not just filled with all of this rich information, conversation. I was trying to find another word to rhyme, but it just didn't come to me in time. Wow, but that just rhymed too. So I am rolling right now. But Kam, what is our word recess conversation today?
So I thought that in the spirit of the conversation already being about literacy and us talking about ways of learning from the past, but even connecting that to the future, that it would be dope to touch on this really cool digital storytelling example that I discovered recently for a youth advisory board that I'm supporting here in my hometown. So I was doing a session where I was talking to the teens about advocacy and agency. So just trying to help them understand, like, what are the community issues that you care about right now, whether they impact you or not, and how do you learn as a teen or young person to exercise agency. I just wanted to make sure they understood that, right? Because I assume that was a buzzword that they may have been familiar with, but didn't know like the full extent of what that meant or how it applied to them. And so I just simplified and broke it down to them by saying that this is literally just your way of figuring out now in the moment, in this stage of your life, figuring out how you can use your voice, use your influence to elevate awareness to the different things that impact you that's going on around you. And so this clip that I played for them, that will probably be included in this episode, or a link will be provided, was from a young man named Harper Alexander, who is a native of Chicago. And he is just a middle schooler. If I'm not mistaken, he's maybe in the 7th grade at the most. And he organized a school walkout that took place in September. I think he's from like the Inglewood neighborhood for the Chi-Town folks. And I was just so inspired by it because like it was a sizable group of folks that he got together. And the clip low-key went viral on all the different platforms. I think I found it on TikTok, but you'll find it on TikTok, Instagram, at least maybe even more platforms. But he basically in the clip is talking about how gun violence is impacting his community, how school shootings are becoming a problem. And he also advocated for the need for mental health funding in his community, which is so impressive. And so I guess this event was an answer to a national call that was made by an organization called Students Demand Action. And from the little bit of research that I've done, I think these are possibly college age students that run this org and just try to prioritize advocacy amongst just youth, which is not just middle school, high school, like that even segues into college age too, because technically you can be a youth all the way up to age 24. So yeah, I just thought that Harper was like just super dope. Like he makes me excited to see the direction that our young leaders are going in, and it gives me hope that our future are, you know, about to really help break a lot of cycles and like just narratives, because like they know what the answer is to our problems that we exist. And all we got to do is just give them the platform, give them the mic and the opportunity to speak to that. And we could be so much further as a society, as a country, if we would just allow them to work alongside of us when it comes to, you know, trying to remedy these things.
That's a fact. And I watched it, and it just reminds me of like the spirit of the Black Panthers, Fred Hampton, you know, Bobby Seale, Huey Newton, who Huey was a PhD, right? So it just reminds me of what we were back in the day and how we fought against oppression and capitalism and all of the things that this young man is talking about. And I'm gonna play it. So for the people that's listening, you can hear what he said, and for the people that's watching, you can see how he looks. So but like I said, it's not something that is surprising to me. I think that Chicago has always been a city that garners this type of youth and cultivates this type of youth in ways that a lot of the rest of the city, a lot of the rest of the country doesn't necessarily experience because of the makeup of Chicago. I mean, if you know it, this is a dropping gem moment. If you know anything, then you know that the first crates from the government that were dropped in communities was dropped in Chicago. Like that was a real thing. I think that was back in the 80s. I want to say it was like the crack was dropped in. Yeah, but when they dropped the guns, because where do you get these assault rifles? Like to this day, like Deontay Wilder, to this day. I don't know where I would find a hood assault rifle. Only place that I know that I can find guns is at the gun store or at the police station. But I can't touch them guns or I'm going to jail. So those had to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
They don't
and
just
who got
show
the
up.
boats? Who got the boats? Who is importing?
We don't got none of that. We just so happen to open the crate like, oh. All right, let's take these. Surprise. But I'm going to play this. I want everybody to tune in to this young fella and all of the work that he is leading in Chicago at such a young age.
We are here today because kids like us should feel safe in school, not scared. But in America, that's not the case. Since the Columbine shooting in 1999, hundreds of thousands of students have been exposed to gun violence at school. In 2022 alone, there were 46 school shootings, the most ever. Assault rifles make these tragedies possible. They're designed for war, not classrooms. We shouldn't have to do lockdown drills or wonder if we'll make it home or not, make it home alive. Schools are supposed to be for learning, not worrying about getting shot. That's why we're here today, to demand change. We want assault rifles banned so kids can finally feel safe again. When they're used, more kids die, more families are broken, and more communities are left grieving. It doesn't have to be this way. We are told schools are safe, but how can they be safe when weapons that can fire dozens of bullets in seconds are still legal? How can they be safe when leaders keep saying thoughts and prayers but refuse to take action? I'm not done. Keep going. We are here because we know change is possible. And we know banning assault rifles is one of the most important steps to keep kids safe. These are our lives, and we want our legislators to know that. We won't let that happen because we are the next generation, and we are setting our future up for greatness right now. We will not stop speaking out until every child can walk into their school and know they will walk back out again.
He
snapped.
ate.
He snapped.
Left no crumbs.
He snapped.
Period.
He snapped. It's one of those, you can tell when someone, and I mean someone, anyone, any age, really takes the time to be literate in anything. And I think to be literate, in my definition, is to take time to read on research and stand on a position on anything. So we have a lot of boys that are literate in sports because they spend a lot of time researching and engaging in debates around who's the greatest. Yeah. And I've always said, if you want to see how smart young boys are, ask them who's the greatest basketball player of all time and watch them provide you with every stat in the book that's committed to memory, but also they're going on to credible sources in order to prove their point, prove their position. So for me, and I guess this is a great segue into the reimagining literacy today. For me, what I get from Harper is like this very intentional connectedness to gun violence. And maybe that connectedness is because he knows, friends or family that's potentially been taking at the hands of, assault rifles, or he's been cultivated in a space to where he understands the detriment that gun violence has to his education and then to the people, the a lot bigger kids that standing behind him, cheering him on, right? And he's taken this journey by the horns, and he's controlling, his narrative as it pertains to school gun violence, school shootings, etc. And it's not necessarily that it has to be a school shooting in the school, but it's the proximity. We was talking about that a little bit before we hit record, where if it happens a block over, that's still a school shooting. If it happens on school property, that's still a school shooting. You're impeding on those youth's ability to learn in a stress-free, trauma-free environment. So I get a lot of, I'm getting a lot from that clip, but I'm also getting that he wrote that speech with intentionality. And I'm also, when I was watching it, that's like my 5th time watching it, I'm also getting like he is a spitting image of what the current mayor is right now.
Oh man, Mayor Johnson.
Like the current mayor is like he is leading that city. He like that. He's leading that city from with energy that we haven't seen from a Black politician in a long time. Obama didn't even give that type of energy, and Obama's cool, but he ain't give that energy. So and I think as we think about like reimagining literacy today, I think we have to center more of the current reality and the current state of these communities as the point of literacy. So again, thinking back to what literacy was in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 50s, and prior to all of those, is they were talking about current happenings in their communities because they weren't as connected as we were. They wasn't even 10% connected as we were. It took 2 months to get 2 months? 2 years. Was it 2 years? Emancipation Proclamation was, I got a computer right in front of me, so I don't even know why I'm trying to commit this to memory. But Juneteenth was 1865.
Mm-hmm.
The Emancipation Proclamation.
Oh, I see the math you were attempting to do.
Emancipation Proclamation was 1863. So it took 2 years to communicate that slavery was over. 2 years. Now it takes a couple seconds.
Right.
We just had, and for those, this is timeless content. But the government shutdown was over. The next day, we had one of them cabinet members giving out bonus checks to TSA workers on live TV and national TV, international TV. Side note, I put this on my Instagram. Imagine missing about 4 paychecks, and your employer giving you your back pay wrapped up as a bonus. And then the other part is, where was the white TSA workers? Why did every check given on that stage, that at least in the clip that I seen, but every check given on that stage was to a black or brown person?
Well, I missed this announcement. Where was this at?
They did this at did they tear down where they do the press? But yeah, it was I think it's
Google
Tulsi.
is my bestie. Me and Google go together real bad, so I'll just look it up.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Okay.
Tulsi Gabbard, she's the director, but why was she giving out the bonus checks? Anyways, a whole nother conversation. The point that I'm making is, the government, we know everything at the tip of our fingertips now. Back in the day, it took years and sometimes months in order for people to know what's going on. So literacy was kind of confined to the neighborhoods to which you lived. Nowadays, literacy is more broad. What Harper brought up in me was, he's literate about what's going on in his community. He's passionate about stopping what's going on in his community. I don't have no problem with assault rifles, but I have a problem with assault rifles going in schools. My reality has not been assault rifles going in schools and, going off, right? Being used intentionally. His reality might be that, which is why his form of literacy is that. His form of liberation is that. So I think, as we are reimagining literacy, I think we have to lean into being more proximate to what's going on in the communities to which these kids are being cultivated, because that's the only way that they're going to buy into reading things and being knowledgeable of things. Like how you walked into that room with the "I voted on," and they immediately said, "Who did you vote for?" And instead of you shutting it down, you did shut it down. But instead of only shutting it down, you turned it into a whole session, a whole conversation. Oh, you asked for this? All right. We're going to do this real quick. That probably wasn't even what was on the agenda. But
absolutely
because they
wasn't.
show interest, and that's the beauty of working with kids.
But that's youth development work. You have to pivot.
You pivot real quick. I came in with the button or the sticker. They see it. They acknowledge it. Oh, y'all interested in this? Bang. I got something for y'all. And then now you're building a generation of literate people in politics and understanding how you navigate politics and how you navigate people who are navigating politics. Oh, it's not proper etiquette, if you will, to ask someone who they voted for. However, what you can do though is you can continue to talk about voting in this way. So you don't necessarily ask about them, but ask about their experience at their polling site or things of that nature. You're teaching them the different things that they will eventually get to. So that's what came up for me in watching that. And that's also was the segue into the reimagining literacy today.
I think just to expand on what you were saying, like, I think everything is true of what you mentioned, of what Harper represented in that clip of him speaking passionately about the issues that are impacting him, his neighborhood, his city as a whole. But for me, it helped me just continue to think of creative ways of meeting the youth that I serve where they're at by utilizing different mediums and platforms that I know that they are constantly utilizing, things that are accessible to them. So I think that when it comes to literacy, like you said, we have to think beyond just the reading, even though that is absolutely a life skill that they must learn. And we do need to still find ways to encourage that. We can also complement reading with using examples from social media, from memes, from, all the different platforms and just digital storytelling, like I said earlier, because to me, I feel like Harper was hitting two birds with one stone. Like he's showing the literacy end of, okay, I've educated myself because obviously I've read, I've done the research, but then I'm using my influence and my platform on social media to spread this message beyond just my community and to start this as a national conversation, not just a local one. So I think that is very key and vital in the work that we do with young folks, is just being able to not only meet them where they're at, but be able to keep up with the times too, because with each generation, it does shift and it changes some. And so you don't want to demonize and make them feel bad for maybe not wanting to participate in the same ways of our ancestors did of learning, but just show them that there's just different ways where you can still, there's no excuse for you not to be empowered. There's no excuse for you not to be knowledgeable, because it's just, again, like you said earlier, so much more accessible to us right now. So just think about Susie and them and what they would have done if they had a smartphone in their possession, like back in the day. Like they would be running our country right now. You know what I'm saying? Like they would be straight global leaders. So that's
we would
where
have had a black woman as a president by now.
Period. So that's where that's where I try to expand like young people's minds when I am meeting them where they're at. I'm still trying to bring it back full circle of still showing that there's still certain just basic skill things that you still like have to be able to do. I use that with my son. He's a Gen Zer and he's in college now. So he has like a best of the both worlds, I guess can reference and say, like, he enjoys reading because that was a part of his childhood in our household and something that I tried to pour into him, but he still has a affinity for social media and, just bringing up conversations or facts that he's seen on Snap or, TikTok. And so we have those conversations, yes, but then I try to always like put the medicine in the candy. And if we talk about something that's come off social media, I'm like, ooh, I'm also going to send you, like this link for this book. Like you should check it out if you ever got any downtime. Or I'm a real big documentary type of person, which I guess is another form of digital storytelling. So I'll encourage him to check out like different documentaries that will still give him the historical context. So that way he's still learning about whatever the topic is that we're discussing.
Yeah, I do physically read books, as you all seen, because I put it in the camera and I highlighted and I have
so we know it's real.
Yeah, so we know it's real. But I am a avid, because I'm a podcaster. I mean, you're listening to a podcast right now. I am also an audio person. So I like to listen and see things. So I listen to books as well. That's how I get through a majority of the books that I read on a year-to-year basis now. That's still recent. That's of the last 2 years, 3 years, roughly. I've always had books, but I'm just getting into my big boy
trying to clear the air ain't no confusion.
No. 4
I'm
years
still
ago,
gonna read a book. If I don't do nothing else, I'm flipping the page.
Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna flip the page. I like to read on planes and like places where I can't be distracted, because there's certain parts of the country where you are disconnected, so you have to go back to your roots. But I just find it easier to read as I'm on the go, and so instead of listening to music when I'm on the road or listening to music when I'm at the gym, I'm listening to books, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm listening to TED Talks.
Speeches are good too, listening like on YouTube. That's how I listen to a lot of like Malcolm X, Maya Angelou like speeches, like to your point.
Yeah, and those are all ways, again, when we're reimagining literacy, I think those are all very like modern ways to be literate. And especially working with Gen Z and Gen Alpha and whatever other ones is coming. Yeah, and beyond. We're going to have to learn how to embrace a new world literacy. and what it looks like, because even now in the schools, they're doing Mayan. They're on Mayan. They don't do any physical work like that. You're on Mayan for reading. What's the math one? I can't even tell you what the math one is. But like everything that they do is on the computer.
Oh, everything's on the Chromebook.
Like
everything.
The Chromebook. And then they get mad when Chromebooks get damaged and things of that nature, right? But one story that I'll tell is like, this is an example of literacy that it struck me when I was working in the school system. One of my boys, I think it was 3rd grade, he was having a pretty decent day. And then I get called to, because he's...
What was your role? Were you like a behavioral interventionist?
Or pretty much. So I was a behavior specialist, crisis intervention specialist, but it was basically a behavior specialist, behavior intervention, whatever. So basically they called me up, and I have a really good relationship with him. I mean, I got a really good relationship with all my kids, and you know, he's pouting outside of the door because he had already like yelled at the teacher and all of that stuff. So so I get to him and I'm like, yo, Antonio, what's going on? He's like, man, this stupid math. I can't figure it out. I'm like,
don't do
math?
Antonio like that. Don't do his voice like that.
He was just like that. You know, I hope Antonio is well now, because that was a long time ago. That was 3rd grade. He should be close to getting out of or whatever. So he's like, man, this stupid math. I can't figure it out. It's making me so frustrated. So I'm like, okay, well, let's talk through it. What exactly, how are you trying to work through it? Well, I just can't figure it out. I just keep getting it wrong, and I just can't get past the level. So I'm like, okay, so it's on a game? Yeah, it's on the game, because everything is a game now. So they make everything a game. Reading is a game. Math is a game, because they think that because this generation is all about games, that if they make the learning a game, then it's going to get easier, whatever. So I'm like, okay, so how many times did you ask for help? Yeah, but they told me that I can't. Oh, I'm not in character. They told me I can't. They said I got to figure it out. So I'm like, okay, cool. So what? So I was like, let me ask you this: when you at home and you playing the game and you can't pass the level, what do you do?
Break the game.
When I tell you, this man looked at me with the utmost confusion. He looked at me with the utmost confusion. And he goes, if I die, I just go to a different, like I just respond into a new game. And then it hit me. We came from a generation of Tetris, where if you don't pass that level, you not moving on. We come from a generation of Game Boy. I got all the stuff. If you watching, all my old games right here. Sega Saturn, Nintendo 64, Sega Genesis. You got the Game Boy somewhere down there. You got PlayStation 1, Dreamcast, all that stuff, right?
I think it's safe to say you're a gamer,
Game
maybe?
Boy Color. Game Boy Color right there. Yeah, I got all that, right? So the point is, we used to play games that challenged our literacy. We had to read, because the technology wasn't how it is now, where you can watch a whole movie on the game. So we had to read, we had to comprehend, then we had to figure out the level. The level is all thinking about like, what do I have to do? There's puzzles. Nintendo was great with puzzles, right? You have to figure out the riddle in order to get powerful and all. We had to do all this stuff, and it pissed us off. We would go outside for 3 hours, 10 hours, whatever the case, before the lights came on, because we didn't have no concept of time. It was be home before them lights come on. So we always knew, it's getting kind of dark, and them lights about to come on, and we go run home, right? We get back on the game after we shower and stuff, and we beat the level. So the gaming back in the day also taught us agency. All right, let me put this down, because I can't get past this level. Something ain't happening. It's pissing me off. Let me go outside real quick, clear my mind a little bit. You know what I'm saying? In this case, it might be
definitely got to take a break. Definitely got to take a break.
But you take a break. You kind of refresh yourself, and you go back, and it's like, oh my goodness, I never seen that door that was sitting right there the whole time, right? For him, his gaming has only taught him that if you lose, it don't matter. You just go into a new game and try it again. If you lose, it don't matter. You're just gonna go into the game and try it again. There is no purpose of the game, because there's only one winner. Versus when it was level-based games, the purpose of the game is to beat the game, the story of the game. They don't have that anymore. At this point, Fortnite was on the scene. It was the ace on the scene. So I say that to say, like, even now, with the type of gaming that our kids are playing, it's not building those skills that translate into the classroom. But the classroom is trying to use gaming as a way to entice education. And if we don't do it the right way, we tend to replicate a system that wasn't really thought out. And now our kids are actually suffering more because we haven't thought through what this means. And for me, one thing that I actually despise is the amount of technology that's in the classroom, because it takes away our kids' ability to build those secondary skills and those auxiliary skills and those miscellaneous skills. I always said, like, when you read a math problem, that is literacy. You're practicing reading because you have to read the English words in order to figure out, and then you have to comprehend those English words, even though you're not in English, in order to do the math problem. So like there's so much overlap when you go to the different classes, and now that everything is on the computer, a lot of these kids, when they're on Mayan reading a book, they just turn off the voiceover and they click through the books. So now you can't click through a physical book.
No.
It's not a thing.
No.
Now we had
no shortcut.
Spark Notes. Yeah, there's no shortcuts to the physical. Back in the day when you had to read over the summer, and we know we didn't do it, we had Spark Notes, but we still had to think about, we had to read something in the book so we knew how to finesse the essay about the book.
Yeah, I'm sorry, so, my generation, we didn't have Spark Notes. No, I didn't learn about Spark Notes till I was like in college, so we had to do the old school, like actually sit down and read. So
nope,
but I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you that there was no corners to cut. No corners to cut.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure y'all had a corner or two to cut, or at least round it a little bit, peek around it. No,
the internet was just popping out on the scene. It was just fresh.
Internet.
So
y'all had no internet.
No, we had like AOL Messenger, Yahoo pretty much. Oh no, then we got the high speed. You know what I'm saying? Like we thought we was doing something with high speed.
I was there, but no, that wasn't internet.
No, it wasn't.
Give these kids that false pretext. We didn't have internet back then.
My point is, we didn't have
Get off the phone.
I got kicked off so many times. Like
Get off the computer. I need to use the phone.
Oh my goodness, it was just so upsetting. But yeah, I'm agreeing with you in a different way.
I feel you. But even then, right? Those are two different times where literacy looked different.
Yeah.
Right. So that was a shortcut that we had because the internet at that time when Spark Notes came out, it was on the internet. So the internet gave you the notes that for y'all probably would have had to send it through mail, and it would have got there in like 3 to 5 days.
We had emails. We could still email. Don't do me. There wasn't no snail mailing. We did snail mail a little bit, but like don't see now. You swerving. Deb the deadbeat. You swerving. Get back in your lane. Okay. Bring it back home. Back home. Focus.
Okay. My bad. It was funny because. Okay, but yeah, y'all had y'all things that worked with y'all, and then we had our things that was kind of like, it started somewhere, but then it progressed with internet. So like we started to see, as internet progressed and we were in school, we started to see the benefits and the shortcuts that the internet provided us. So if we had Spark Notes then, now they got like Quizlet and stuff to where people be inputting whole
they have AI, they have Chat GPT.
I know Quizlet was like in the 2012 to like
I think it's still applicable to college students here.
Oh yeah, but like because Quizlet, they used to put, if you had I had one of those, but if you had a very lazy professor, they literally
the same. I perused and found some answers on there before. I'm not gonna hold you
verbatim. Now they got AI, but I think AI is another form of literacy. But I think AI will, if leveraged correctly, and I've heard some professors say they still use AI because they've quizzed AI and AI got, I think, a C or a B plus at most on the quiz.
Yeah, because it's still wrong sometimes.
Right. There's some things that AI cannot do. You have to be the thought piece of AI. AI can refine and be concise in terms of your thoughts and things of that nature, but it's not going to do everything. And I think that we have a unique ability, especially in the space of literacy, to liberate our kids in fact checking your sources. So now, in a sense, everybody becomes a journalist because journalists have to check their sources before they publish a story, right? So yeah, I mean, I think that is how we reimagine literacy. And then I'm gonna read another excerpt from Dr. Muhammad's book, Your Cousin 3 Times Removed. And this one is more so around collectivism. I'm gonna start. To keep knowledge to oneself was seen as a selfish act, and each person therefore was responsible to elevate others through education in the immediate and larger community. The idea of collectivism is in direct conflict with schools today, as schools are largely grounded in competition and individualism. This is perhaps one major reason why students of color often do not reach their full potential in schools, because schools are in disharmony with their histories and identities. Ooh, Dr. Gholdy Muhammad.
Preaching.
Dr. Gholdy Muhammad. Preaching. And that takes me to one of the closing thoughts is I seen a Black woman who was a teacher on TikTok. And she talked about how her class partook in a RICO.
I didn't expect you to say that.
Stories.
Hold on,
I love
what?
how we tell stories. So basically, it was like, they had this like organized process to cheat on the test. And it's so funny because it was real like well thought out. Like it was because, so she talked about how the platform that she uses, that they use for the school district, you can monitor. You know how in the computer lab, I mean, this might be before your time, but or after your time. But in the computer lab, the computer teacher could see everybody's like computer. They monitor what's going on.
We had computer labs. Yes,
yeah,
I'm aware.
Do you know that the teacher can see what everybody's doing on the computer?
You talking about on their computer?
Yeah, so like on the teacher's computer, you can monitor what like Chris is doing over in the corner because that's not in your purview. So you can just pull up his like computer and you can see everything.
I didn't know that was.
See, I told you after your time. So,
first of all, no. I can't let you have that. I can't let you have that. I've worked in professional settings that did youth programming where we had computer labs, and we never had that. We didn't have no money, I guess. We must have been broke because I've never seen that type of infrastructure. So every computer lab does not have that type of access, just so you're aware. Okay, so proceed. No, they do not.
To save.
And I've worked in multiple settings for different orgs with computer labs, but proceed, please.
Shaky.
We can't be here all night. Okay, I got stuff to do.
You're right. But basically, she was talking about how she can monitor everybody taking the test, but basically somehow there's like a network of kids. So they would send the link and the kids will act like they're doing a test in the classroom, but it's somebody in a different class doing the test for them. And she was like, it was interesting because there was kids getting 90s on the quiz, but they weren't like showing up to class or whatever. That's how she caught on. Again, AI.
You gotta at least get a B or below. You can't just be acing the test. Like you giving yourself away.
Yeah, so she ended up like finding out because some of the other teachers kind of knew about it. So that was a whole nother thing. But the point is, she found out that her kids were like all taking
organized
place in
criminals,
RICO,
just organized
crime with cheating. But the reason why I bring that up, the reason why I bring that up is because it's collective. They all came together in order to share a way to share knowledge.
To overcome the system. Look at that.
To overcome the system. And those are skills that you will never come you will never not experience in the school setting, in the youth development setting. There are going to always be situations where kids ultimately work together to a collective end. And I think as we reimagine literacy, we have to reimagine how we approach, just how we approach shared knowledge, shared wisdom, and then how do we take the classroom and create a collective environment where everybody is helping everybody learn, even if it's a test. Because the reality is that those Regents tests that I passed decade plus a couple years ago, I don't remember none of that.
Right.
And I did that individually. So why can't all those kids learn together, pass the test together, and graduate together? I'm gonna leave that there. Mic drop.
Good point.
Mic drop.
Touché.
I'm not dropping this mic though, but I'm dropping the mic. As we close out, I'm gonna do a hip hop drop. Hip hop drop is where we honor the educational brilliance rooted in the culture. And when I say the culture, I mean hip hop culture. And this hip hop drop for today's lesson, it's all about the power of the cipher. If y'all know, the hip hop cipher is where, performers, dancers make a circle, and then you have a single performer or a couple of performers in the middle of the circle. So I've taken that because my hip hop angle in the hip hop education realm is taking the psychology of the culture and placing it into either the classroom or the program room, etc. So a cipher is an all-inclusive yet intimidating space where everybody's invited to explore their own genius. In professional settings, we often lose sight of that energy, meaning we think that we are the experts of our spaces, which technically in teaching you are, because you're a master to a certain extent. That doesn't mean that I can't challenge you and you can't challenge me. As a hip hop educator, part of my mission is to bring that same rigor, creativity, and communal accountability back into adult engagement. By design, the cipher leads with grace, rigor, and innovation always. Every space I facilitate, I consider myself just one member of the circle, equal to everyone else. And I trust that I will learn something new from each person who steps into the center. In short, this week's drop is simple. Step into the circle, talk your talk, walk your walk, speak in your truth, and challenge the brilliance around you. That is the psychology of the cipher.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. Yep. I just feel.
What Dev just said.
Yeah.
Talk your talk. Talk your talk.
Talk your talk, walk your walk, and nobody in the cipher is not bigger than the challenge. And that's how we all get better. And the reason why
nobody's bigger than the program.
Nobody's bigger than the program. And that's the reason why I say Kam is no stranger to that, is because that's how I lead my national work at that other place that I get dollars from. And part of how I've always led is to remind everybody that if I say something that they feel is off-putting, offsetting, or not in alignment with what they're doing, challenge me on it, because that's how I get better. I only know what I know based off of what I experience. So the best way that I can get better and sharpen my psychology and my approach is if you challenge me in the ways in which I am approaching this work. So that's where the cipher was born.
Iron sharpens iron.
Iron sharpens iron. Ooh, that was a good. That was a
you
good section.
tired now? You done said a word. Like you ready to wrap this up?
Ooh, that was a word. That was a word. I'm trying to get into my writing bags, not just put it on there, but kind of make it sound all succinct and things of that nature. So yeah.
Well, I guess with that being said, just reiterating the key takeaways from today's conversation was just being open-minded about how we explore literacy as it relates to just whatever generation you may be from, but especially as you are serving and working closely with the future. Definitely give the historical background of how literacy relates to our society, why it's important to prioritize that, but then also pair that with the current examples of how we're still able to further our knowledge and understanding of things and just figure out the different creative ways of how we can teach our young folks.
I love it. I love it. I don't even got nothing. Mic drop. We just dropping mics. If we say mic drop, that means that it ain't no reason to follow up what was just said. So with that, the challenge, you know what? This is the challenge. The challenge is I want everyone listening to embrace literacy in the classroom, in your house, in the bathroom, in the kitchen, in the basement, in the attic, in the driveway, on the way to work, on the way to school, in McDonald's drive-thru. It don't even matter where you are. Embrace literacy. I want y'all to focus on your own stories. Focus on the student stories. Focus on the stories of the environment to which you come from. The second thing I want you to do is embrace all of the languages of everyone in your community. What does that mean? What does that look like? Literacy is not just one-dimensional. It is multidimensional, and we live in a global society, especially in the United States of America. The third thing I want you to do is provide regular access to diverse stories, images, experiences, and perspectives. As we develop youth, we need to make sure that they are experiencing a wide range of perspective and experiences, because that's how we get the Harpers of the world, right? Mm-hmm. The fourth is place value on reading, writing, speaking, listening, actively listening to understand, not listening to respond, and creating in the work that you do. So if it's in the classroom as a student, if it's in the classroom as a teacher, all those things should be embedded in the totality of the product that you're looking to receive from or ask for. And the last thing is read aloud together often and with intentionality. I want to say that again. Read aloud together often and with intentionality. That means that you shouldn't just be reading anything. You should be reading things that are intentional to the purpose to which you're trying to push someone onto. Those are 5 ways to which you can embrace literacy. Those are a paraphrasing of it, but those also come from literacy is more than just reading and writing, which is a piece that was written by, what is her name? Give me a second. It was a piece that was written by Amber Peterson. Amber Peterson is a Black woman, because on this show, I'm looking to highlight Black people, Black scholars, blackity, black. And if we got some of our white counterparts, just understand that I trust the work that they're doing, okay? We trust the work that they're doing. But if Cam say no, it ain't happening. But Amber Peterson is the director of program innovation at Lit World, which is a nonprofit that promotes literacy and social emotional development through storytelling. She wrote an article. It was a dope article, and those were 5 things. I paraphrased and I added my own mix to them, but those are 5 things that she said that how you can embrace literacy in the global citizenship. Literacy for global citizenship in the classroom. And if I say those just as her words, is focus on students' own stories, embrace all the languages of your students, or embrace all languages your students speak, provide regular access to diverse stories, images, experiences, and perspectives, place value on reading, writing, speaking, listening, and creating in your students' work, read aloud together and often. So, we will place all of these resources in the description. We will place all these resources where you can find them, so you all can go on a journey and you all can commit to those 5 areas of embracing literacy for a global community. And for all the liberated souls and for the ones that want to be a little bit more liberated, I think y'all got a little bit more liberated. This is our first full episode, or our first full lesson. It was on literacy as liberation. I'm Dev, and I'm gonna let Cam take us out in class.
Thank y'all for tuning in. Hope y'all enjoyed the conversation. We look forward to you returning to class for our next lesson. This is Cam signing out. Class has officially been dismissed. Your syllabus has officially been remixed.